Hello everyone, my name is Rochelle Innocent and I'm the founder and CEO of Project Purpose. Welcome to our channel. Our community is focused on fostering the intellectual and character development in children. We do this through our parent-child workshops that are focused on 4 themes: autonomy, self-efficacy, compassion, and self-concept, in order to cultivate grit, perseverance, and resilience in each child. And we are very thrilled to be offering one of the first of its kind virtual, digital, and continuous learning environments, enabling children and parents to connect from all around the world. At Project Purpose, our overarching mandate is to renew and rebuild family, community, and relationships. Our different social media platforms provide us with an opportunity to have discussions on all topics that relate to family, community, and relationships with ourselves as well as with others, with a primary focus on mental health and education. More precisely, the ways that the institutions of mental health and education play a role and have played a role in our societies at large. These discussions and debates provide us with an opportunity to think critically about what needs to change within these structures for us to live up to our bold slogan: support, protect, and empower each child through youth-focused development, better known as leadership in juvenescence. We recognize that in valuing our children's leadership potential, this also translates as recreating and co-creating environments, both socially and politically, that will enable our children to thrive. For those of you who are particularly keen on the topic, we also write thought pieces every other Sunday, and we have one scheduled to drop this upcoming Sunday. So be sure to meander over to the website and check out our content. If it is the case that you're looking for listening alternatives, well, we have options for you. We're available on 10 different podcast platforms, and we provided you access to the links in the description down below. Now, as is the convention, be sure to subscribe, hit that post notification bell so that you are aware of every time we post. And of course, if you like these conversations and you want to keep them going, like, comment, and share this segment. Let's get into it. Hello everyone. Welcome back to another segment here on Project Purpose. For those of you who are new, we cover topics that relate to mental health, mental wellness, and education on a week-by-week basis. And this week our topic of discussion is mental wellness. Now, in our conversation this week on mental wellness, we are doing a 2-part series, and this is the second part of our 2-part series because I like to finish things off on a positive note. And we were talking about just thinking patterns that enable us to just thrive and flourish in the lives around us. And our first part of this 2-part series was more around the thinking patterns that we needed to be more mindful of and that we wanted to correct and just be more intentional about not engaging in those specific thinking patterns. Whereas this video, we're going to be talking about the thinking patterns to adopt. So I have my top 5 thinking patterns to adopt in 2022, and these can be adopted by way of intentionally just engaging in these thinking patterns, or if it is the case that you're correcting a thinking pattern from our previous video, you're correcting it by adopting this thinking pattern as an alternative. So without further ado, let's jump into our 5. The first of which is always improving on your personal best, not others. And I think that this is the best way to achieve growth and development in life, is by looking at yourself, by paying attention to yourself, by paying attention to the ways that you show up, by valuing the ways that you showed up, by valuing the learning and the ways that you know you could have shown up a little bit differently. But by way of like what benchmarks and the barometer of success that you set for yourself, don't let it be a benchmark based on an average amount of people, right? Because some averages shouldn't be agglomerated, some averages shouldn't be put together, especially when we're talking about individual people and all of the different factors in terms of how individuals show up. So if you are pushing yourself, if you are looking for progress, then your personal best is the best place to start. And if you can beat your personal best every time, then you're growing, you're flourishing, and all for the right reasons, right? You're growing and flourishing with yourself, for yourself, and you're doing it without needing to feel like you're beating yourself up or that you're comparing yourself against others, which I think is amazing. I think it's not just amazing, it's a win-win. It makes competition less toxic, and sometimes we think competition and performance, we avoid them, we're averse to them because we think they're toxic. But if you're focusing on beating your personal best, there's absolutely nothing toxic about it. My second thinking pattern to start adopting in order to flourish and thrive in this upcoming year and in the years ahead is planning. If there's something that you want to accomplish, plan. If there's something you want to achieve, if there's somewhere you want to go, if there's an experience you'd like to have, plan, right? If that means budget, if that means planning your time, if that means time management, whatever the case might be, this is the year to start planning it out. So we all have dreams, we all have visions, fantasies, imaginings, so on and so forth. But very little of us put it to a plan, right? We don't put the plan to paper. We kind of just start and stop at the imagining and at the dream. And I think this is the year where if you're thinking about it enough, like if it's occupying enough of your time and attention, plan for it. And even if the plan is like a 2-year plan, even if it's a mid-year plan, it like doesn't matter how much time you realize is required to make it an actuality. Like if you're spending mental energy, emotional energy, like dreaming it up, then I'm telling you, plan it out, put it to paper and make it a habit. Anything that you feel is worth achieving or acquiring or experiencing, then I say make a plan for it and make that the new normal starting this year. So my third thinking pattern that we want to adopt for this year is recognizing your own internal resilience. And all of us, every single one of us is much stronger than we think, and often the time it is when we feel at our worst, it is when we feel at our weakest that we're utilizing our strength, but we don't recognize that we're still pushing through, we're still carrying on, but we're using our strength in doing so. And so we discredit ourselves quite a bit, and I think that it's mind over matter. I think sometimes we can get stuck in the feeling of feeling like low energy and feeling weak and feeling dejected, and we don't realize that despite feeling those things, like we're still pushing through, right? We're still like going to work, hitting those milestones, doing fitness goals, and all of that is resilience. And sometimes in acknowledging our own resilience, we strengthen and bolster our own resilience. So I think this is the year that I want everyone, especially if you're going through a rough time, to just acknowledge and celebrate your resilience, and then maybe hone in on it, like focus in on the fact that mind over matter is so significant, right? And if you can foster it up in your mind, like if you can visualize it, if you can imagine it, if you can, build objectives around it in your mind, it just translates automatically in the physical realm, in our physical reality. So I think very little of us recognize our own innate strength. Many of us only feel strong when we're not using our strength. Some of us don't even feel strong when we're not using our strength, but everything you've been through, you've grown through, and that is strength. Everything you're going through right now, the fact that you're still accomplishing anything while going through a very challenging situation is resilience and strength, and it is a demonstration of mind over matter. Anytime you do something that you know you need to do, even if you don't quite have the will or desire to do it, mind over matter is resilience. And I think it's about time that we start to celebrate our resilience, and we start to be more conscientious of all the ways that we show up that is resilient. And we recognize that oftentimes it is in our weakness that we are showing up resilient. And I want everyone to just take an opportunity to celebrate that for themselves, to acknowledge their own strength and to build up on it. And I think that that's a great place to begin, like the positive thinking, like supporting ourselves through periods that require resilience, I think is super crucial and important. My fourth thinking pattern that I'd like to discuss in this video is just recognizing that no one owes you anything. And this isn't to put it rudely, I think it's more so to put it bluntly. And I think if we go through life not expecting anything, then it's harder to get disappointed. And not And we're not going through life not expecting anything because we want to avoid disappointment. I think we're going through life not expecting anything because really everyone's living their own lives, right? And if you do make a request, if you make an ask of someone and they respond and you didn't expect it of them, then it gives you an opportunity to be all the more grateful and to express gratitude. And I think sometimes we lose sight of all of the reasons why we ought to be grateful, or why we could be grateful, or why we can experience gratitude, because we expect a lot from others. And I think that it's this place of expectation that we place on others that really sets us up to not be grateful when people do show up for us, which begins a bit of a negative cycle, because those of us who are ready to show up, who are ready to be helpful, who have no issues kind of being part of someone's support system, like when you take it for granted, when you feel entitled to that, then it takes away from wanting to be that for you, right? If you're just constantly there to, take, and you have this expectation that that's like your right to take, it's just not a very fun feeling on the receiving end of it. So I think it's important that we all learn to just expect nothing so that we can appreciate every little thing that comes our way. And I think it's the best place to position ourselves for gratitude, by beginning with expecting nothing from anyone other than ourselves, so that when we get something from someone, we can be and feel so grateful for that gesture, because every gesture that someone does, where they're extending themselves or where they're stepping outside of their own world into your world, I think is so beautiful. And we lose sight of how beautiful it is when we establish, when we foster those human connections, when we start to expect that those things are the norm. So I think gratitude is really the core of this specific point, by way of not expecting anything. And I think the more that we mindfully not expect anything, because sometimes we start off not expecting anything, but then we're kind of used to a certain standard with certain people. And I think when we cultivate these different standards, it's easier to take people for granted. But when we mindfully choose to keep not expecting a whole lot from others, then we can always be in a place of gratitude. And I think that's a beautiful place to be in. And last but not least is channeling your thoughts to focus on your intrinsic worth. I think this is important, and it's a parallel to my last point in my first video, but I think we need to spend more time focusing and celebrating and paying attention to all of the ways that we see our own intrinsic worth. So carving time out of our days actually to think about the ways that we feel worthy without needing to correct a thought that, tries to pin our worth on external things. So I think the more that we take the time to acknowledge and to build arguments and to recognize our intrinsic worth, recognize the qualities that we bring to the table, recognize the characteristics and our personality traits, and just the ways that we show up differently that is worthy without anyone needing to agree or disagree with us, I think the more we start to build confidence and build self-assuredness in our intrinsic worth. And I think this is something that we can do on a daily basis. It doesn't need to be a whole lot of time, but all of us need to do the work to be more conscientious of our intrinsic worth as people. And the more we see our own worth as a human being, the easier it is to reflect that onto others. So a lot of the time, if we have a hard time seeing other people's value, if we have a hard time seeing the worthiness in other people, it's for the most part a projection, right? If you don't see other human beings as valuable, it's likely that you have very little to say about your own personal sense of worth and inner value. So I think that's something that we can all work on. I think it's something we should all be working on. And I think if we take a little bit of time, 5-10 minutes each day, to just reflect on our qualities, our characteristics, and recognize the worth in all of our individual traits and our quirks and all of the ways that we're different, the more we can start to build a sense of inner intrinsic worth. And that can be something that we reflect out into the world around us, which is light, and it's Beautiful. Now that's it for my list of thinking patterns to start to engage in by way of building ourselves up and flourishing and thriving as we grow and develop throughout this life. But before you tune out, I just wanted to let you know that for the foreseeable future, we do have planned live events taking place on our Facebook page. Now, these live events are paid events, though they're facilitated in such a way where we're cultivating the critical thinking, the life skills, and the soft skills required to derive more meaning and fulfillment out of life. Now, if this is something that is of interest to you and you're looking for a discount, we do have membership plans available, which I will post on this video so that you can peruse, but it's also on our website if you want a deeper dive. And with our membership plans over and above our live events, you also have access to our workshops and our webinars, which is going to be very cool, mostly focused on self-mastery and all the ways that that itself translates. So definitely check that out. So we have the calendar posted for each event throughout the year, so you can RSVP whenever you would like on the website or even via our Facebook page. I'm so excited. I'm looking forward to building community and engagement with you all, a hashtag game changer community with you all. And that's it for now. I look forward to chatting with you soon.